Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm glad that you're here today for part two of my story. Today, I'm going to be talking about my college years and pretty much where I left off from the last one. I mentioned a lot about me participating in different churches, which I didn't know they were not Catholic. And then later on, I learned and educated myself about the Protestant movements and all of that stuff. Um, so, everything that like had to take on, I know that the Lord was guiding me, even when I didn't realize it. So now, yes, I do know, but at the time, of course, I was just like oblivious to it. So when I started college, I joined a few different student organizations. One of them was the Vietnamese Student Association. The other one was International Student Association, I believe that's how you call it. But it was great because you get to know different people, different cultures, and honestly, I loved it so much. It was such a joy to learn about the Vietnamese culture and the traditions, and I met some amazing people through it. One in particular stood out to me. Um, she was older, and I just love how she was very respectful and educated, and she was beginning her post-bac. Um, well, I was a junior. Yeah, I was a junior in college, and so she was just starting her post-bac. I think she graduated. Um, but anyway, um, that time was really fun. I liked it so much because she wasn't really like a bad girl that I would call now or a bad influence. Um, and we connected right away because she was learning Spanish, and with me, she was practicing constantly. And sorry for all the sounds. I'm trying to get this together. Um, okay, so she was learning Spanish, and with me, she was practicing. The crazy thing was that she spoke with absolutely no accent. So she could have passed for a native speaker, a native Spanish speaker. And our friendship was really a gift at that time. Through her and other friends, I started going out more, staying out late. And one of my favorite discoveries near campus was this small social dance studio. And believe me, guys, I was just, yeah, I kept going every Friday. It wasn't really a nightclub, so that's why I liked it. It was just a local place where people came simply to dance. And I don't want to go further into it, but I was not really into alcohol at all during that time. And so, because there was a bad experience in the past, and so that place didn't have alcohol. There was no distractions like that. It was just people that liked to dance salsa. And there was a bar next to it, so if people wanted to drink and all that, but there wasn't like craziness in it. And naturally, I was good at it. I love dancing. I loved it. But the truth is, while on the outside it looked fun and carefree, inside I was restless. My spiritual life was non-existent. That sense of emptiness and longing was still there, and there was a huge void, of course. Um, Around the same time, I took an on-campus job, and I prefer the on-campus job because I did get offers for me to stay longer in retail and to get promoted. But retail, I would have been super lost because every paycheck, I just kept spending it, and so it wasn't really for me. But this on-campus job was a little intense, and even though the description of it all, like it was easy to do, but it wasn't my personality. I was going at it for the pay, and it really helped me to get by. I worked with the on-campus police securing buildings. I had to walk all night, um, sometimes after midnight, and there are moments when it was like that shift that's funny. That's like from almost midnight to like 4 a.m. It's really bad. I didn't like those hours, but there were moments when I did it. Very rarely, but I did. The work itself wasn't hard, but it was intense, like I said. And the reason why is because I had to walk across campus for hours in the dark. And when it was cold weather, it was freezing cold. I loved it when spring came because then it wasn't cold. It was really nice to just be out there. Um, I got to know every corner of that campus because of that job. Because there was a pilot kind of position, it wasn't ever opened before. I was starting, so the group that I was in, we started it, but they didn't have carts for us to drive in, and so then now I know that they do have that. But anyway, it pushed me far outside my comfort zone. It was in the dark, and people know this. I am not as much, but I was afraid of the dark. And for me to do that, it really just me pushing it through. But of course, it was God's grace. Um, there were long walks, there were lonely walks, sometimes in the icy weather, and a lot of the wooded paths that were just, because our campus was very foresty, like woodsy, like. um, but looking back, I know that job helped me grow. It taught me hard work, and even the kind that feels thankless builds something in you. Uh, I learned so much that even if you don't like it, you have to do it. And then I kind of learned a little bit of that perspective of the other side of like the police, and got to know some of them and some of the officers and their stories and their just a little bit of their personal lives. And so that was nice for me to learn because I was really just kind of in a box where I only learned one thing and that's all I knew, and I judged them for it. But when I started getting to know the person behind, of course, that uniform, it was good for me to get to know that, to have that experience. Um, but going into something deeper, there was one night, and this one I'll never ever forget. Even today, I can see every detail as if it just happened. It was close to midnight. I was in one of those woodsy areas of campus doing my rounds, and the custodial staff, they would come like around midnight every single day, and they would park their cars in the heart of campus, and they would go off to their own buildings. They wouldn't bother anyone because they will have their own job to do. So out of nowhere, I saw this tall shadow up ahead walking straight towards me. And of course, it was in the dark. And my heart did drop. I tried to act calm, like I was on a mission, and I quickened my pace to get to the lighted area. But when we finally crossed paths under the light, I saw a tall man dressed in dark clothes with a beanie. He came right up me and he said, well, his presence, let me just tell you, it made me nervous, but I tried to act. And he asked me, what's your name? And it wasn't harsh, but it wasn't gentle either. So he just said, what's your name? Now, if you know me, you know I'm a terrible liar. And for some reason, ever since I was a young girl, I always kept the name Sandy in the back of my head, just in case I need to give a fake name. But it was due to the movie Grease. But of course, I don't look like a Sandy. If you look at me, there's no Sandy in here. So that's what I said. I said Sandy. And then he asked, what's your real name? But he said it like he demanded it at that time. And I immediately, like a little kid caught doing something wrong, I blurted out my full name. And he lowered his voice, looked at me, and the words he said next are what burned into me. He said, you know, God has a plan for you. I will be praying for you because God has something big coming for you. You don't even know or have an idea of what's coming for you. And I froze. I mean, part of me thought this guy's really crazy. Like he needs to be somewhere else. But then another side of me said, wait, what in the world? He didn't say anything else. He just left me with those words and walked away. And the reason why I know this too is because they're in my journals. I used to keep journals and I have them, even though I don't like reading them. But as I turned and kept walking toward another building into another stretch of the dark woods, I suddenly began shaking uncontrollably. And there was those hot tears. I don't know if you ever had that, but I had that. And they were pouring down my face without me even trying to like cry. And they just came out. And it felt like something just pierced straight through me. right into my soul, and I tried to contain myself. I didn't want anyone to see me like that. But inside of me, something had been set on fire. Those words stayed with me for a long time. Now, looking back, I can tell you, like 2014 was the year that the Holy Spirit shook me awake. He opened my eyes, He turned my life upside down in the best way. And that was the year my conversion truly began. But of course, we all know we always need conversion. But I started learning about my Catholic faith seriously, not just like to hear something out and that's it. No, I wanted to go deeper and I began praying. I started going to daily mass, to confession with a truly contrite heart, and most of all, I began receiving the Eucharist, Jesus Himself, His body and blood, with no doubt in my heart that He was real, asking Him to heal me and that He had a plan for my life. The things I had been prioritizing before, staying out late, dancing, doing things that gave me temporary happiness, they didn't matter anymore. They weren't pleasing to Him, and I knew it, and they weren't filling the emptiness inside me. Even though I wasn't falling, maybe in my head I would say, well, there's people that sin even more, or that do even worse things than what I'm doing. But that didn't matter. I knew inside of me that the things and the feelings and everything I was doing, the intentions behind it, they weren't pleasing to Him, and that's what mattered most. And that didn't mean life suddenly got easy. In fact, it got worse in a way that temptations grew stronger after that encounter with Jesus. But I was no longer walking blind. More than just that, though, I remember that I was starting to just fall in love with Him, with Jesus. And for the first time in my life, I felt loved in a way that I didn't even know it was possible. For the first time, I didn't care what people thought of me. And I felt this freedom. And so it's like those chains got broken out, and I didn't have them anymore. I didn't have to carry all of that with me. And so, of course, it wasn't everything after that encounter with Him. A lot of things happened. I did go to retreats and all that, but I'm gonna go into that a little later. Well, now it is. I lived retreats. I experienced them. I discovered devotions. I fell in love with Mary and with the saints, and prayer. I discovered the richness of the Catholic Church. I was starting to, and in a way that I had never known before. And you know what I've discovered now that I'm a mom? Is that you never stop learning. There's always something new to learn in this rich faith. And I I had never known it before, and I wished I did, but God has perfect timing. I truly believe that I had to be an adult to do this. And I'll be honest, before all this, I used to call myself a feminist, but that kind of feminist that believe women don't need men. I said never marry. I'd adopt children instead and live life on my own. I never dreamt, I never even thought of having a husband or a family. Like I didn't even think about the wedding dress or having to go through giving birth and going through labor. I didn't want anyone telling me what to do. I was so independent, so stubborn, and also just a lot of the things that I had to go through childhood. You know, there was a lot of um, things that I went through, and that kept me away. So I had this huge wall that I never even thought of the possibility of one day becoming a mother or one day even being a wife. So then, of course, all of that changed. Everything I've shared here is just a gist of all that happened during that time in my life. 2014 was a year that shook me. It was the year I graduated from undergrad, and instead of feeling accomplished or proud, I fell into depression. I honestly disliked my entire undergrad experience. I thought it was all a waste of time. So, when that happened, I wasn't working anymore because I was graduating and the job is for students. So when this encounter with this man that happened during my job, it was way before. But what I'm saying is that gradually all of this happened. And one of the greatest blessings that came out of that season was meeting a friend who I can honestly say changed everything for me. Looking back, I know it was the Holy Spirit giving her the grace even to become my friend, because I didn't make it easy. If you knew me back then, I would flake out. I would say, yes, I'll meet you, and wouldn't meet her in the last minute. I would cancel, and I canceled so many times. So I asked her a few years later, like much later, how did you have patience? And she said, it was the Holy Spirit, because I don't know how I did that. And I avoided her. I was like, why? Why did I give out my number again? She was a hardcore Catholic. And what it was intimidation. I was intimidated because I was like, these people are too holy for me. I don't deserve to be in their presence. And I don't think I'm going to gain anything from being around them. And so I just didn't want to be like, I knew that if I would meet up with her, like maybe I would go and join her group, or her little circle of friends that I would say during that back then. Um, but let me just tell you something. God had a purpose for every single bit of it. He was writing a story I couldn't yet understand. So every single thing, every single tear, every single worry, anxiety, depression, everything that I went through, and even those moments when I was kind of avoiding a friend that was such a great friend to me, and I didn't realize it then. But spiritually, I was in a battle. I was living in so much sin. And the truth is, darkness and light cannot exist together. So my heart was resisting her because the light she carried made me aware of my own darkness. So that is something that I learned, of course, during that time I didn't know. And yeah, like I said, it's the Holy Spirit that did that for her, because she was patient. She didn't give up. She kept persisting with kindness until one day I finally accepted her invitation to a retreat. And it was during the same week I graduated. And so I was depressed because I graduated. I didn't really like my graduation from undergrad. And so I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. And so then that retreat was for 5 days, which was a long time for me, but it changed my life forever. It was the first time that I allowed myself to encounter the Lord in a real and personal way. And from there, I went to another retreat, and it was with the community that I am now participating and having my whole family serving there. My husband is one of the musicians and audio system person that helps out with retreats. But this was in Spanish, and it was such a gift. And that retreat, when I went, so first I went to that one English one, which was 5 days, which is where my friend kind of begged me to go. And I will always thank the Lord for that persistence, because it changed my life forever. And then I went to another one, which I believe people know. It's Steubenville. It was my first time, but I went as a what is it called? Chaperone? Yeah, as a chaperone, because they needed one. And and it was great, because then I was able, like, the Lord just made it happen to where my older brother was able to go, and then my younger sister was able to go. And that is like impossible, but God made it possible for us to live that. And it changed me so much. I kept learning more. And but then I went to the Spanish retreat where I met the man who would one day become my husband. And at that time I had no idea, of course, but God was already weaving his plans so beautifully. And as I look back, I can see how relentlessly God pursued me. He never stopped knocking on my door of my heart. And eventually I couldn't ignore him anymore. I couldn't hold it all in. I had to surrender. There was even a song that's called Surrender that marked that moment for me. I'll never forget it. Because of those experiences, though, of that summer and fall of 2014, I I began having, these experiences with different freshmen and students, and like I was doing small groups. I was a leader for small groups and all these things, and I just kept learning. God just humbled me in so many ways, and I just kept learning, and I'll never forget it. It was the first time that when I So when I listened to the song Surrender, it was the first worship song that broke me open. I played it over and over again because the words echoed exactly what my soul had been longing for. I fell at his feet, spiritually speaking, and I surrendered. I just wanted to give it all. And in that surrender, I saw myself so clearly as the Samaritan woman in the Bible. And when she was at the well, I felt like the whole world was judging me. That's how I was. Like everyone could see the shame, the lies, the worldly desires I had been trapped in. But Jesus looked past all of that. And that's what he does. He stretched out his arm and he sought me out right in the dark, right from the darkness, right out from that darkness. And I still feel it. He pulled me out from that pit that I had dug for myself into his marvelous light, that beautiful light. He showed me that his love was bigger than my past and my sins, than my ugliness, bigger than my failures, bigger than any plan that I could come up with for myself. So this has been part of my journey. My conversion wasn't one big lightning bolt like many other people have had, but a series of encounters, retreats, friendships, and even struggles that the Lord used to keep unlayering me little by little. And yeah, I'm just gonna end it here because there's so much more. That brings me to the end of these getting to know me episodes. I wanted to share part of my story because it's not perfect, but it's real. And my hope is that one day I'll keep sharing more of these moments with you as we go on to this podcast, because the truth is the Lord is still layering. He's unlayering me now even more now that I became a mother, and he just never stops. There's always more. He wants to reveal more. He wants to heal more, and there's more in depth of us. And I believe that every soul has that. He wants to use this for his glory. So I want to thank you for walking with me through these chapters of my own story. I pray it encourages you to see where the Lord might be knocking in your own life. And I hope you'll stay tuned because there's so much more to come. And having just the Holy Spirit guide this. You have a beautiful day. You have a blessed day. And as always, she loves, she serves, she's Mama.